Okay, continuing on. Here's Trump's latest cut to PBS, public broadcasting.
House. As we turn to a news alert this morning, President Donald Trump signs another executive order making cuts to federal funding. NPR and PBS funding slashed due to what the president is calling bias in reporters broadcasting. Right now, we're going to check in with Fox 5 DC's Melanie Onwick. She joins us live this morning at NPR headquarters with what else we know about this order. Melanie, good morning to you.
Good morning. So in the executive order, which was signed after 11 p.m. last night, the White House says that government funding of the news media is outdated, unnecessary, and corrosive to the appearance of journalistic independence. NPR and PBS have been bracing for these cuts as a continuation of the Trump administration cutting funding for programs that the president dislikes. But
Masterpiece Theater, I like that show.
Just produce news programming.
How the hell is Masterpiece Theater biased?
Generations of kids grew up on Sesame Street, Clifford the Big Red Dog, and Bill Nye the Science Guy. Programs like Masterpiece Theater and Antiques Roadshow have become cultural icons. But disdain for the organizations and their news divisions was evident.
And a lot of times they have those musicals by PBS. By singers.
During a hearing in March on Capitol Hill, Republicans and the president have criticized the outlets, claiming on social media they, quote, spread radical woke propaganda. NPR and PBS leaders defended their bipartisanship.
Okay, I never saw that.
For far too long, federal taxpayers have been forced to fund biased news. This needs to come to an end, and it needs to come to an end now.
PBS programming and the services that local stations provide bring Americans together.
Sure, okay. Bias news. Sure, that sounds good to me. But if Trump really wants to get rid of bias news, okay, if he really wanted to get rid of bias news, and let's see what they say, news with independent newscasters, he would reinstate the Smith-Mundt Act. Smith-Mundt, M-U-N-D-T, which was overturned by Obama in, 2014-ish, where when they overturned it, the government is now allowed to lie to you and tell propaganda through the press and news. And why would they do that if they weren't planning on lying, telling a big fat lie to you? Lies. Has Trump, they can continue to do it until he revokes that law. Duh. I don't think that's why he's getting rid of PBS. Like I said, he doesn't want anybody watching anything to learn anything. He doesn't want anybody smart. Because, let's look over here. He took another step Tuesday to place NPR and PBS at the center of his broader clash with cultural institutions. Congress to take back the $1.1 billion is set aside for all public broadcasters for the next 2 years. Public broadcasting. Okay. Public broadcasting. Let's look that up, which I did. Okay. Public broadcasting is radio, television, and other electronic media outlets whose primary mission is public service with a commitment to avoiding political and commercial influence. Public broadcasters receive funding from diverse sources, including license fees, individual contributors, donations, public financing, corporate underwriting. A public service broadcaster should operate as a nonpartisan, nonprofit entity, guided by a clear public interest. That's what public broadcasting is, rump. Public broadcasting refers to radio, television, and other media outlets that prioritize public service over commercial interest. Oh, I guess that would violate being a Trump loyalist, wouldn't it? Because he wants everything out of everybody's mouth to be loyal to him. And I'm going to read on. Often funded by government support, donations, and community contributions. Its mission is to provide educational, cultural, which he doesn't like either, and informative programming that serves the public interest without political or commercial bias. That's the definition of public broadcasting, rump. And I watch it all the time, Masterpiece Theater. I don't see anything about what you're talking about. Nothing woke on there. Agatha Christie. So, that's just something else. Sesame Street. No, like I said, he doesn't want you reading books or watching anything educational. He just wants you to be a good little Nazi. Join the Nazi youth, I guess. That's what'll be next. So let's go back over here. And I mean, gosh, I don't know. He's just slamming out all kind of crap. I mean, now in addition to that, the courts. Will the Senate kill a House GOP pet policy? What is this? Okay. Okay. No court of the United States may enforce. This is something else he's doing. He's making it to where the courts can't work. No court of the United States may enforce a contempt citation for failure to comply with an injunction or temporary restraining order if no security was given when the injunction or order was issued pursuant to the Federal Rule of Civil Procedure. The provision called Section 70302 would effectively block courts from enforcing injunctions without the party bringing the suit paying a bond. It's an expansion of current rules, which requires a bond. Okay. This would have enormous consequences for the courts and the presidency. President Donald, let's see, get on here. Okay, so here's what it is. We call it the get out of contempt free card, says Laura Friedman. It lets government officials in the Trump administration break the law without any accountability. It's a very, very dangerous piece of policy snuck into a bill. That's what they do. That's what they do now. This is not real diplomacy. Just like 5G, okay? Back in I was tracking that back in 2017, 18, and the last I'd heard then that the 5G had failed. It was either Senate, I guess the Congress or Senate. They voted against it for lack of health testing. So it sat. I called in and they told me it was sitting in the Committee on Science and Technology, Commerce, and I forget what else. And it sat, and they said I could write a letter. I did write a letter to them, and they never got back with me. And I kept wondering, it just kept sitting because they were going to sit there and be waiting a vote. Well, the next thing I hear from somebody else, 5G, that got snuck into another bill. No vote, no nothing. And that's what he's doing now with that 10-year moratorium on states' rights to decide on what laws concerning AI are in their states, which violates the state rights laws, and I mean on and on. Here he is with that court thing, getting him a get out of jail free card. Right there should be a reason to impeach him right there. Just one of all these things. And now the rump. Now the rump, it's bad enough that we've got illegal homeland security, fusion centers, oh God, I forget, there's There's so many spy agencies out there, yet they still don't know their butt from a hole in the ground. But I digress. He wants to make a huge agency with Palantir to make one big file on all Americans, including their medical information, which violates HIPAA law and every goddamn thing else, because you can't keep files on American citizens. It violates the privacy. It violates the Constitution. There shouldn't even be a vote on it. They shouldn't be doing it, but what? They just do it anyway. Let's see. Let me write. Oops. Lost my pen here. Okay, here we go. I have to write down where to tune in on this one. 2.59 and 7.35 10. Okay, let's watch this short clip. 2.59.
These videos.
Sorry, let me get it. Whoops.
And the whole
2.5.
Corin's YouTube channel, 15,000 subscribers. Will enjoy that.
Okay, here we go.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into it, y'all. So, huge news came out the other day, as I'm sure most of you have seen, that Trump is partnering with this tech data company named Palantir. And the whole idea of them getting together is to build a mass database on all Americans, taking like hundreds of data points about every individual and putting them into a file that the government then has. Okay? Now let me just pause for a second to point out. Could you imagine what the right-wing response would be if Barack Obama was doing such a thing or Joe Biden was doing such a thing? You would literally never hear the end of it, and it would be viewed as the biggest betrayal of Americans and their rights of all time. Now, to be fair, as I said, I actually am seeing some MAGA accounts that are going, whoa, 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 I didn't sign up for this, right? But having said that, of course, you're still going to have the cult of the Kool-Aid drinkers who absolutely will never abandon Trump no matter what. Now, the guy who is, at the top of Palantir, there's a couple of people who are at the top of Palantir, but the biggest name is probably Peter Thiel. Now, Peter Thiel is a tech billionaire oligarch robber baron, and this is a guy who, I really don't think this is an exaggeration to say, I don't know if there's a single person that trusts him. Why? Because he is very, very disturbing as a human being. Mm-hmm. So let me show you, just to set the table here for you, let me show you, he was on with Piers Morgan not that long ago. Piers Morgan asked him a question about the Luigi Mangione assassination of the health insurance CEO, and look at how this guy answers this question, okay? This is Peter Thiel, y'all. Here we go.
And to those who think this shooter is a hero because he did it because he said this healthcare executive is presiding over a healthcare system which kills thousands of Americans by denying them cover, what would you say to them?
None of this is edited, by the way. None of this is edited.
It's I don't know what to say. I still think you should try to make an argument, and I think this is you should, there may be things wrong with our healthcare system, but you have to make an argument, and you have to try to find a way to convince people and change it by that. And this is not going to work. And I don't know. Yeah. It's yeah. There are all sorts of things one could say about it, but I don't think, and I think the motives feel, I don't want to go into all the particulars here, but I don't think there's anything heroic about him.
Do you want that guy having literally all of your data, creating a file on you that the government can then use and they can exploit you with? I mean, this is literally like, when you're watching some sort of a...
And let's go over to this section, 7... Oops, some of this is the same. Oh, going too far. Hang on, 7, 3, 4, okay.
with tech company Palantir, which could create data profiles of Americans to surveil and harass them, as Donald Trump and his administration pursue crypto.
And harass them? Where does it say that? So I don't know if they have a file, they're going to harass you with your file.
Austerity measures across the country, they're plunging millions of dollars into the president's pet projects, and that includes reportedly giving hundreds of millions of dollars to a company that's expanding the government's ability to spy on its own citizens. The New York Times has a new report on the administration awarding contracts to the controversial tech company Palantir, which is apparently helping Trump develop a database of Americans' private information scraped from various government agencies that could theoretically be
other illegal agencies set up by Bush Hog and all the rest of them that never sunsetted. Oh, the Patriot Act was supposed to sunset, but let's get an emergency extension, which they continue to do for how many years? 2000 and whenever it was, early 2000s to now, 2025. Never sunsetted, did it? There's no emergency now to spy on people without a warrant.
used to track or persecute them. So
if they can't do their damn jobs right, use the laws that we have, get a warrant, have good investigators, then quit. Go do something else.
According to the Times, quote, the push has put a key Palantir product called Foundry into at least 4 federal agencies, including DHS and the Health and Human Services Department. Widely adopting Foundry, which organizes and analyzes data, paves the way for Mr. Trump to easily merge information from different agencies, the government official said. Creating detailed portraits of Americans based on government data is not just a pipe dream. The Trump administration has already sought access to hundreds of data points on citizens and others through government databases, including their bank account numbers, the amount of their student debt, their medical claims, and any disability status. Mr. Trump could potentially use such information to advance his political agenda by policing immigrants and punishing critics, Democratic lawmakers and critics have said. So, as you all know, they are flagrantly violating the law in going after pro-Palestine.
What are they doing, Nazi Germany? I'm reading a book, Sophie Scholl. There are a lot of Germans, a lot of them went along with him, but there were Germans that were against. It wasn't just bad enough they were killing Jews, which Hitler hated, but it was a tyrannical government. You had no freedom of speech. You had to claim loyalty to Hitler, and they would walk around scared to death. You couldn't even criticize for instance, I hate to spoil the book, but and Sophie Scholl, her brother and a few other people, they were in the military. They were handing out leaflets, which in today's terms would be called a flyer. Handing out flyers cost them their life. They were beheaded. Flyers saying they were against his tyranny. You had to swear loyalty to him. And here we are now. Now they've risen. He's under Operation Paperclip. They let him go. See? And this government allowed some of those evil Nazis to come over here because they wanted their information. And they served no time in prison. They should have been hung. But
Palestine protesters, anti-genocide protesters, locking them up with no due process whatsoever, sometimes indefinitely. Imagine them having all of your...
I don't get why he's taking students that are here under student visas. That's that's legal status, a student visa. If it's not expired, how and why is he kicking that? I personally, I like different cultures and meeting, I like the Russians, I like, different cultures, all cultures. I like to see different kinds of people. Why is he saying we don't want you here? It's just insanity. Next thing he'll be going after Jews again. He wears that little Jewish hat Okay? I don't think he's Jewish. First of all, none of this stuff is under God's laws. Okay? None of the stuff he does.
Social media posts, all of your bank account information, all of your medical information, every single fact that is public and known about you that used to be private, but now it's becoming public. Now it's put into one.
What happened to HIPAA law? Huh? What happened to that? I couldn't get certain records I wanted from a relative that died because of their HIPAA law.
Imagine what they can do knowing all of that information. How do we know? They won't say, hey, if you support Palestinians, that is material support for Hamas, which means it's material support for terrorism. Therefore, we're freezing your bank account. And there's nothing you can do about it. I really don't think people have fully wrapped their mind around how devastating this is and how much this destroys the Constitution, our rights, freedom of speech. They continue. The White House did not respond to the Times' request for comment, and Palantir declined to comment on its work with the Trump administration. It pointed to a company blog post that said organizations that license its products define what can and cannot be done with their data.
Look at this guy right here. He looks like some kind of interplanetary freak. Look at him.
Palantir account. So in other words, hey, it's okay. Palantir's not actually making the decisions with this data. We're just compiling the data. The very responsible Trump regime.
This is their loophole once again. Okay, another loophole. So it's not the government keeping all the files. This is a private company over here that has the files on you. Okay, just like with the telecom industry under Bush Hog. The retard Bush, the same thing, okay? Oh, the government's not listening to your phone calls. They forced all the telecom industries to keep files and forced them to release the files to them. And they said, oh, the telecom industry did it, not us. That's their loophole.
We'll decide what to do with this data. The Times report aligns with concerns about surveillance and the weaponization of federal data highlighted by Rachel Maddow during a recent episode featuring Times reporter Julia Angwin. Palantir.
And 3.32. Let's see.
And
3. Here's this freak Palantir. He worked for the CIA, for crying out loud. Okay?
I think we and then Palantir alumni really played a huge role in that. But the controversy has been a really big part of what our DNA and being very unpopular for 17, 18 years.
Oh yeah, so doesn't this guy look like someone you would trust with all of your most sensitive information?
Here we go. Another one.
Well, do you remember when we thought Trump was going to be the anti-establishment president who was going to ensure that the deep state did not gather data on all of us? Well, unfortunately, this happened. This article came out from the New York Times. Trump taps Palantir to compile data on Americans. This is the article. In March, President Trump signed an executive order calling for the federal government to share data across agencies, raising questions over whether he might compile a master list of personal information on Americans that could give him untold surveillance power. What? Wait a minute. What? I thought Donald Trump was going to be the guy that stopped all of this. This is why people voted for him. They voted for him because they thought that he would put an end to the deep state. He would put an end to the central government, the idea of central government that was going to be gathering data on all of us, creating database, monitoring us, big brothering us, finding out which vaccines did you take, where are you going, what kind of ideas do you have, should we be shutting down your bank accounts? I thought we were going to be against all of that, and that is why Donald Trump was put into office. But it turns out, no. He's doing the exact opposite. He's actually doing, honestly, the big brother surveillance wet dream of the globalists. Says Mr. Trump has not publicly talked about the effort since, but behind the scenes, officials have quietly put technological building blocks into place to enable his plan. In particular, they have turned to one company, Palantir. the data analysis and technology firm. And we're going to get to in a minute why Palantir is so sinister and why you should care about this. Goes on to say the Trump administration has expanded Palantir's work across the federal government in recent months.
And they're building all these disturbing, humongous data centers everywhere. These data centers. I'll talk about that in the next part 3.
The company has received more than $113 million in federal government spending since Mr. Trump took office, according to public records, including additional funds from existing contracts as well as new contracts.
Wait, $150 million to illegally keep files on all Americans, and that's not government waste, rump? Let's go on and read. Okay. Citizen Rule Book. This is all you need. It cost me like 10 cents. This is all you need. Give up rights for the common good? Where the people fear the government, you have tyranny. Where the government fears the people, you have liberty. Politicians, bureaucrats, and especially judges would have you believe that too much freedom will result in chaos. Therefore, we should gladly give up some of our rights for the good of the community. In other words, people acting in the name of government say we need more laws and more jurors to enforce these laws, even if we have to give up some rights in the process. They believe the more laws we have, the more control, thus a better society. This theory may sound good on paper, and many of our leaders think that way, as evidenced by the thousands of new laws that are added to the books each year. But no matter how cleverly this Marxist argument is made, the hard fact is that wherever you give up a right, you lose a free choice. This adds another control. Control's real name is bondage. The logical cohesion would be if giving up some rights produces a better society, then by giving up all rights we could produce a perfect society. Like Hitler. We could chain everybody to a tree for lack of trust. What might they do? This may prevent a crime, but it would destroy privacy. And I value my privacy. A lot of people during the Bush Hogs' reign of terror would say, they can listen to me all they want. I have nothing to hide. I say, I have nothing to hide except my privacy, which is the heartbeat of freedom. It would also destroy trust, which is a foundation for dignity. Rather than giving up rights, we should be giving up wrongs. The opposite of control is not chaos. More laws do not make less criminals. We must give up wrongs, not rights, for a better society. William Pitt of the British House of Commons once proclaimed, "Necessity is the plea for every infringement of human liberty. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of slaves." And I've got to stop again. I'm already at 28 minutes. I'm going to continue on with part 3.